no contact mistakes. Item retention. I repeatedly come across honest and decent victims who do not know how to implement no contact. There are two main reasons why people fail at no contact. The first is that there are many people who think they understand narcissism but don't, and therefore they pump out material across social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, etc., on blogs, information which is inaccurate, incomplete, and downright dangerous. They do not understand what no contact is and how it must be implemented. My work gives you that information. The second reason why people struggle to implement and maintain a total no-contact regime is as a consequence of emotional thinking. It doesn't want you to stay away from the narcissist. And by stay away, that means it wants you spending time with the narcissist, communicating with the narcissist, running around doing things for the narcissist, talking about the narcissist and thinking about the narcissist. And it is crafty and it is conniving, and it will endeavour, through a variety of means, through flawed logic, the charging of the battery of feeling, to make you breach your no-contact regime, and indeed cause you to breach it and not even realise that you're doing it. Luckily for all of you, you have access to my material, not only these videos, but the articles that you'll find at narcissist.com, and a wealth of information which is designed to help you understand the narcissistic dynamic and build your no-contact regime so you achieve freedom in the knowledge vault. You'll find that using various links from the videos and in the menu bar at narcissist.com. Use that material. It has been created to help you. You will not find any better information that will assist you with the implementation and maintenance of your no-contact regime. In this video, I'm going to address a common no-contact mistake to ensure that you don't keep making it. It is well understood that no contact is the effective approach to tackling our kind. Whether your entanglement with a narcissist was in a romantic context, familial, or a friend, the aim is to delete that person, cut them out of your life forever, so that the cessation of the provision of fuel and the difficulty in trying to assert control over you forces the narcissist to seek to assert control over alternative appliance and thus leave you alone. The concept is an easy one. Have nothing at all to do with us and cut off all means of contact. Execution, of course, is somewhat more difficult. You will have to overcome significant emotional hurdles which cause you to either want to continue some form of contact or cause you to leave open a route for an approach to be made, just in case. You will have to conquer the innate empathic desire for answers, to know the truth of what has happened, to know what the narcissist is doing now, whether he or she is all right, whether they're seeing somebody else, whether that new relationship has crumbled to dust. You will have to make sacrifices and changes, whether that is altering your telephone number or at the very least blocking numbers, altering email contacts, staying off social media, or even more significant steps such as moving jobs and or home. In certain instances, you will face a determined opponent who will be reacting badly to the sudden cessation of a source of fuel and the inherent wounding that comes with such a bold move on your part. Dependent on the precise nature of your narcissist and the circumstances of your no-contact regime, you will be hoovered, often in ingenious and intense manners. You will face appeals to your better nature. Your sympathy will be milked. You'll be threatened and charmed. Resisting much of this proves difficult, hence all the more reason to ensure that these entreaties for change, the attempts to milk sympathy, do not reach you in the first place. And it becomes harder and even more difficult when you are ground down, exhausted and bewildered. Nevertheless, Should you grasp fortitude and bolster your resolve to execute no contact, well done. It remains the most effective way of forcing us to seek to assert control elsewhere, by withdrawing from you and obtaining fuel, character traits and residual benefits from other appliances, and thus in the process afford you much needed respite. The road to being left alone is paved with difficulties, and often they are actually of your own making. This invariably occurs from underestimating who you are dealing with, through to repeated complacencies, which I come across in my repeated consultations with people, which arise as the consequence of the perception that a period of silence on our part means that it's finally and completely over. I direct you to, is this the final discard, to understand how it's never over. There are many common mistakes that are made when people implement no contact, and we begin with the issue of item retention. People like mementos. Whether it is a reminder of a wonderful holiday in the sun, a trip to a concert, or a sporting final, people like to collect something which is a tangible reminder of the experience. A link is made between that item and the experience, and picking up that glass lighthouse with different coloured sands inside of it transports the holder back to the sun-kissed shores of a Greek island and the blissful times that were spent there. It might be that pilfered plastic seat taken from the stadium when the football club moved to pastures new, and the zealous fans helped themselves to that particular memento. It may sit in the garden shed, but every so often it is touched or gazed at as the memories of a victory and defeat come surging back, triggered purely by looking at a piece of coloured plastic. The associations are powerful. The emotions that were experienced are imprinted on that person, and they are able to summon them, or, indeed in some instances, the memories and emotions rise in involuntary fashion, just by the individual looking on the memento, touching it, holding it. The individual is transported back to the concert, the triumph of completing a marathon, the first music examination passed. The memory of a relative in their dying days would sit with their blanket over their knees. Indeed, the individual keeps the blanket in a box so that every now and then the holder can hold the blanket to their face and smell their deceased relative still, and in so doing, experience the intense emotions which are evoked through such an act. This is no different with our kind. We create ever-presence, either instinctively and in some cases calculated, which lay down triggers throughout the entanglement with us. This ever-presence is extremely powerful and allows us to remain looming large in your memory, maintain a grip on you, and pave the way for successful hoovering in the future. Some people make the error of retaining those items which were both gifted to you and which were left behind. The victim thinks that whilst no contact has been implemented, there is no harm in having those reminders of supposedly better times. The first present that was given to you as we seduced you, a jumper of ours, which we have left in the wardrobe, which still smells of our fragrance, or a particularly special gift given to you on the first anniversary of being together. Sometimes the item may prove to be expensive and or practical to you, and you are loath to remove it for those reasons. Indeed, you may actually think, well, although the relationship turned to shit, I might as well have some benefit from it and keep these Louboutin shoes that he bought for me, or the television that was purchased. More often, however, it is because you wish to retain some reminder of what you had with the narcissist, so that every once in a while you can sit and hold that stuffed toy, or let your fingers trace the ornate frame of a beautiful landscape we gave you and conjure up the memories of when we were together. It may be one item, it may be several. Do not do this. All items, be they gifts or possessions which have been left, trinkets or mementos of your involvement with us, must be purged. By allowing yourself to retain this connection, you are breaching no contact. You are enabling us to live in your memory. This means that you are allowing an emotional response to govern you, rather than the cool hard logic which is needed to keep no contact implemented and effective and in place. By giving this emotional thinking the opportunity to surface and interfere in a no contact regime, you are in turn weakening it. You are allowing yourself to then think further about the narcissist, your mind drifting to such thoughts as, "We had such a wonderful time when he gave me this. I wonder what he is doing now. I have always loved this item. I could never get rid of it. We had some special times together. It is bittersweet holding this now and thinking of her, but I still crave her. I wouldn't do any harm. It wouldn't do any harm just to chat, would it? I remember this so well. It seems like such a long time ago. I can put it behind me now, so it would not hurt if I contacted him." As I have repeatedly explained, there is a reason why you were ensnared by our kind. You have an addiction to us, and you have an innate ability to attract our kind and be susceptible to our overtures, and that will never ever leave you. Yes, you will become adept at recognizing our kind, if you apply my work, and knowing you ought to stay away from us. But many of you will fall for us again if you do not heed the warning signs and your emotional thinking is allowed to increase. You cannot help it. Some of you do have a greater level of resistance and may well be able to interact without plunging back into the quagmire once you struggled in. But why would you ever want to risk finding out what the outcome would be? The fact that you were once ensnared means that there always remains a risk of it happening again. You have acquired the knowledge, and that knowledge tells you what we look like, what we do, and why you must maintain no contact. That knowledge is based on cold, hard logic. That is why it is effective. As soon as you give any emotional thinking the opportunity to govern you, then you are no longer using this cool, hard logic. You have abandoned it. You are often even thinking, "I know I should not do this, yet why do I feel like I want to do this instead?" And you give in to the emotional thinking, which has taken you over and leads you into further and further interactions with us. It places you back on the narcissist wheel of misery. You'll always remain vulnerable to us. That is how you have been built, in the same way that we have been built to always need to assert control over you and obtain fuel from you. You are able to protect this vulnerability by staying away from us, staying out of the 5 arenas of interaction, and that includes not holding on to any physical item, any memento, gift, totem that causes you to remember us. By allowing yourself to retain some kind of trinket, trophy, or object, you are giving the emotional contagion that we have placed inside you the opportunity to surface. Your emotional thinking is waiting, lurking, like Japanese knotweed waiting to grow back. When you look at that object, pick it up, hold it, fondle it, rub it against your face, whatever it is, you are feeding your emotional thinking because you are breaching your no contact. And then the emotional thinking, once awakened again, wants to govern your thoughts and make you interact all the more, and thus creates an increased risk that you will go on to commit further breaches of no contact, perhaps by talking about the experience with somebody else, perhaps checking up on Facebook what we're doing, or even communicating with us. If you do so, of course, you then enter a sphere of influence by reaching out to us, and this nostalgic interaction with this item places you at risk of a Hoover being executed against you, and then that leads to increased interaction, increased emotional thinking, and the danger of being sucked back into the formal relationship once more. If you keep some totem of your supposed love, a memento of those fabricated ecstasies, you are sitting with a time bomb. It will keep reminding you of the narcissist. It will keep increasing your emotional thinking, and it will hinder your forward advance towards freedom. As you know, much of what the narcissist does is intrinsically designed to paralyze you so that you cannot escape us. This paralysis is caused by our varied manipulations. The keeping of a memento, however, no matter what the reason, is emotional thinking and should be rejected. This provides a potential for us to, in effect, infect you again. You, by keeping hold of this item, are keeping the ghost of us with you. Our haunting is allowed to continue, and by glancing at this item, holding it, touching it, smelling it, or caressing it, you are allowing the emotional thinking to flow once again and to become stronger. The greatest risk is that you are puncturing holes in your logic vessel as you try to cross the emotional sea, and in so doing, this will lead to you falling into that emotional sea once again and becoming ensnared completely. No matter how strong you might feel, no matter how much you feel that a mere object cannot have such an effect, do not take the risk. You are sticking your head in the lion's mouth when you don't need to do so. Whether it is a gift that we gave you, something created through the golden period, or a trinket of delightful times, it poses a risk. If those items belong to us, you are exposing yourself to a double risk, viewing those items as the potential to affect you in the way that I have described earlier, and it also provides us with an excuse to make contact with you and to see you again for the purpose of collecting those items, or just talking about them. This then means we gather fuel from you, assert control of you, and increase your emotional thinking. By enabling us to appear directly in front of you, from our point of view, at worst, we will just gather fuel from you, and at best, we will successfully seduce you and draw you back into the formal relationship. If you give us a toehold, we will take it and use it to our advantage. Combine this determination on our part to assert control over you with your inherent susceptibility to our kind and the presence of emotional thinking. You are then exposing yourself to danger once again. Anything that tells you that you should keep the item, that you should retain it, that it will be a shame to throw it away, is emotional thinking and must be rejected. Logic says, get rid of it. Return it to the narcissist. Sell it. Destroy it. Put it away in storage, never to be seen again. But do not keep those items near you. Purge them all. Return our property through a third party. Do not hand it over yourself. Do not make arrangements with us direct. Get another person to do it, or, if it's small, send it through the post. And expunge everything else, as set out in my book, Exorcism. Retention risks infection. Retention is a breach of no contact, and must not be done.